So welcome to the audio controls tutorial, and what you'll see here is we have a timeline for our LEGO demo project data, and we have an object here which is a minisphere, 360 minisphere. It happens to be the same video here, but we could have used a different 360 video. It also has an audio object, which is in fact the audio, the wireless mic on this woman here who's going to be running, and then we have a 2D video shot, which is a camera here, a GoPro on this table. So what I'm going to do with these four different elements, show how to mix audio. And you might want to take a look at the adjusting the audio volume, which you do on the controller here. So for example, I can turn the volume up and down just by twisting the controller. That's a very simple introduction to the master volume. And that controls just the loudness of the master that comes out after all the mixing is done. But now I'm going to show you in this tutorial how to mix the different audio levels. So we have our master 360, which is the 360 video that we've set up in this project, and this analysis, which is the one we see here, which is an Insta360 Pro camera. I'm standing on the tripod here as I'm inside the view. And the master 360 for the current one that we see around us is the timeline. And at the top of the timeline, you see this part of the timeline is the interface for the audio controls for this master 360. And you see also you have a volume control here and also the similar controls here for this 360 here. And we also have it here for this audio object. There's a volume level and there's the controls. And we also have it for this also synced. These are all synced together, but you could have an unsynced source here. We have a volume and some sort of mixing here, which I'll explain. So if I play now, you'll hear the volume level from all these sources, which is going to be quite a lot of work for it to try and keep them all in sync. So I'm just going to play that quickly, and we'll hear maybe slightly out of sync the audio coming from the Master 360 combined with all the others. So, slightly out of sync because it's got quite a lot of sources to be able to sync together, and that takes quite a lot of processing power because it's trying to play these videos as well at the same time. But what we can do is decide which of these sources we might want to listen to. So we can actually mix all 1, 2, 3, 4 sources. This is them for the Master 360. So we've got 4 different sources we can mix together. If we jump into this 360 over here, like this, which is the same, it turns out, then this becomes the controls for that master, and the controls on the new video here, which is where we were, are controlled from this interface. If we go back, then now this is the controls for what we see, and that's the controls where we were. So if you have multiple minispheres, 360 minispheres, every time you jump into one and it becomes the master 360 video, then you control it through this. And those controls will transfer into this and vice versa. So this timeline is dictating the source, the audio volumes and other aspects for this master 360 only. Whereas on the controller, this is controlling the master of the whole mix. So it's quite a powerful mixer that we have here to be able to balance sources. It's also important to notice that there's a difference between mono sources, like this is a mono microphone here, and spatial sources. We don't have ambisonic video implemented in this release, where you would hear, if you'd recorded with an ambisonic microphone, we have one here on this over here, this is on the table, this is an ambisonic microphone. That means the sound can be spatialized here in VR. So you hear it coming from where it was coming from in the actual scene. So if this woman here was talking, if on the headphones I would hear her coming from that particular place. Basically when we play now, we're going to hear the sound as coming from everywhere. But if ambisonic gets implemented properly in a future release, we will be able to do that and play the ambisonic sound accurately. But we can hear spatial sounds. So this audio source here is mono. This 2D source here is coming from this screen, and this source here is coming from this sphere. So when we play these, we actually hear the sound coming from these objects. That doesn't mean it's the sound coming from where it is in the space there, but we hear it as coming. In fact, this is a camera here. We will hear the sound here coming from that table. If she runs, I can move this audio source over here and hear her coming from, the sound will come from my left ear if I'm looking straight ahead. And if you stand around me, and if you also rotate your head, you'll also hear the sound coming from those sources. So this is important to remember. There is spatialized sound in AVA360VR, but it's not ambisonic as in the original recordings, as that's not yet fully implemented in this release. Okay, and also you'll probably hear for myself that when I'm talking in this replay of this vocap, then you'll hear the sound coming from my head in the scene. So if you're standing on my left, you'll hear it coming into your right ear that I'm now speaking to you right now. So this is spatialized sound. Okay, so let's see how we can do a mix and see how we can mix these together. And what we find is that on the master 360 video, we can adjust the volume. So if I move this up and down, I can adjust the volume as it's playing back. I'm just going to mute. This is I'm just going to solo this one just to be quick, which means I'm only going to hear this, and I'll just play it now. And there you see I've reduced the volume right down, and I'm bringing the volume back. So I can control the volume of any individual source. But what I did is I soloed this particular source here. I can unsolo it, and that means I would hear all of these again. And I can mute this, which means I won't hear this, the master 360. I'll listen to all the others unless they are muted as well. So muting and soloing is important. Muting means this particular source won't be heard in the mix. Soloing means only this one and any others soloed will be heard. So this is quite a powerful way of deciding a balanced mix. So I could decide, for example, I want to hear this a little bit, and this microphone here, she's just ran over there. I want to hear that one too, so I can solo that at full volume. Now if I play, now I can hear, she's just running back, she just said something. I can hear her running back, and because this is soloed as well. And as she runs back, you can actually animate these objects. You have to look at the animation tutorial, and I can animate this wireless mic as she moves around to follow and track her. So we put it here. So that's soloing. This one here you can see has been muted. It's on mute. This one also has been muted as I had soloed these two. If I unsolo this one, they're still muted because this one is soloed. If I unsolo that, now they come back to more individual control because nothing is soloed. But I could, instead of soloing one, I say I want to only hear, say this one here, the 2D, I could mute this one, I could mute this one, and I can mute this one. And now if I play, I could hear her rapping her knuckles on the table. I can only hear this one in my right ear now as I look this way. Now that's only because all the others have been muted. That's a rather long-winded way, I'll just pause it, of getting only to hear this one. If I unmute these, and then I solo this, all the others will be muted straight away. And now I hear only from that 2D video there on that screen. Okay, so you can see that's fairly powerful. I'll just take that one off in order to isolate a particular source. And just to show what happens here, for example, if I solo this and put it at full volume, now we're listening to the 360 video. Now if I jump into this, which is muted, now you'll see this one has been soloed here, and this one is muted. Now if I play, we'll hear it coming from this object. And you can probably, if you stand next to me, you'll hear the sound is coming from this sphere because that's the one that was soloed. If I jump back, then it's on here. So that you get the idea that the 360 video is currently showing, and it could be, you can have multiple 360 cameras and jump between them. But the one that we're showing is always the one you see on the timeline. So I'll just unsolo that, and we can see that here. If I mute this and then I play, we're now hearing quite a few sources. If I jump in here, now that's the one that's muted on here. And jump back. Okay, So that is quite a lot of fine work we can do to get a nice balance between the different microphone levels and decide which sources we want to hear at a particular time to bring out a particular hearing or listening which allows us to make a better analysis. Okay, that's the tutorial on using the audio and the controls for a range of different sources.